Hello everyone, Jen Dubell here for Country Craft Creations, and today I am following up with a video as promised on how I created these wonderful pocket cards using a couple of the exclusive collections from Country Craft Creations. This first one, which I have completed, is done with Christmas Dreams. I love this paper. All the beautiful, I cut something out here, sorry. All the beautiful pinks and blues and reds, and just, it's very vibrant. I love the color pinks and aqua with Christmas. And so I just love this collection. So I'm going to set this aside and show you the basic construction. So what this is, it is a pocket card that you can give as a card, give as a gift. You could wrap this, you could add a card flap, which I will show you, to the back to make it an actual card, and then make a larger sized envelope to fit it in. So when this is all done, the way that I have done it, all the way to the point of my die cut piece up there, is it's going to measure out to be 8.5 by 5. And it has 3 pockets. So you have a pocket at the top here, and then you have a pocket in the middle, and then this fun little accordion pocket in the front. And this one, it sticks out a little further so that you can put thicker things in there. I just embellished. And then I just made some different inserts, tags, photo mounts, and you can put pretty much anything you want in here. Each one will have a rosette wand, I guess you would call this. That's made with 2 rosettes, a die cut from my Cricut machine, a bow, and then a paper straw from the craft store. And so this is how this all goes together. So this just slips into one of the pockets. And then I have this gorgeous glittery blue tag with a white background that is from the Patterns and Solids for Christmas Dreams. It's the coordinating solid papers. I'm going to slip that in, and I did notch this out so that it was a little bit easier to pull from it. And then our cute little girl here, as you can see, is, I cut her out, I fussy cut her, and then I made a little photo mount that you can stick inside of that tag. And these are tags made with the regular Graphic 45 tag die. And she just slips in a pocket. And then this one here is a fussy cut raised up with a little spot for journaling, backed again with that solid off-white color. And you can put these in any order that you like. You give it as a gift, it'll have all of these elements sticking out of it. You can make this shorter if you like, which I might do with the one we're going to create together. So let me just move my camera back just a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to set the Christmas Dreams one aside. So this is the paper that I am going to create this card with you, or excuse me, pocket with you. I'm going to use the Christmas cheer paper. So I'm going to show you the construction of the base of the pocket card, or excuse me, the loaded pocket. I keep calling them cards because you can turn this into a card if you like. I'm going to pull the inserts out of this one so that you can see what we're doing here. So this piece that you need is there's 3 different sheets of white, or whatever your solid cardstock is that you're going to use, that you will need. You'll need a 6-inch by 12-inch, a 5-inch by 9-inch, and a 4 1/4 by 6-inch piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the largest piece, and we're going to put that down on our scoreboard at the 6 mark. You're going to score all the way down from 1/2 inch and come into that 1/2 inch mark here and do the same thing all the way down, getting a decent burnish. And then we're going to go to the 7, turn our paper, and then do this at 7. So then you'll have a 1/2 inch score line going all the way down, and when you turn your paper, you'll have 7. And what this is going to end up being is this portion here as well as this pocket. So what you need to do next is you need to go in where that 7-inch score line is, and we're just going to cut a little mitered triangle. So just miter both flaps inward, and you will end up with this. And we want to do that on both sides. So you can see I have it on both sides now. And then we want to go in and we are going to fold these back. This cardstock that I'm using is a textured cardstock. So I want to make sure that what I see on the front of my card base is the actual textured look. And we'll put the bare cardstock to the back. So this is where you'll burnish all these lines down. And like I said, this is going to become our front pocket. So this is our 4 1/4 by 6 inch piece. We're going to place it lengthwise. And we are going to score this at 1/2 and 1. And we want to come in and do that again. So we're going to go in at 1/2 over here and then 5. And you're going to flip your paper clockwise and score 1/2 inch all the way across the bottom. So you should have something that looks like this with little squares on both sides. Now we're just going to go in and miter that bottom flap and then go up and cut out those squares. So you want to cut all that out and miter that corner at the same time. Okay. Now for mine, I would like a little bit of a miter to the bottom portion. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to do that now. And that's what I will end up with, is something like this. So I have a 1/2 inch score mark, 1/2 inch score mark. That's the same on this side, and then one across the bottom. So go ahead and fold in the bottom one. Then what you want to do is you want to fold in at the first score line all the way at the edge, and then fold back the second one. So you have this little accordion look here. So we folded the first 1/2 inch mark closest to our flap in and then back. So we're going to do that again on this side. We're going to fold this in and then back. I'm just going to give these a nice burnish. Okay, so now that we have this all together, we have our back piece flaps, our 1/2 inch flaps folded back, and these will fold forward. But first we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I made the embellished pocket, embellished back pieces. So with that 5 inch by 9 inch piece of paper, I have taken 2 pieces of paper from the collection. This will be the back piece, and this will be this piece. Now you don't have to cut this one all the way to 9 inches or even 8, because as you can see, when you put it in the pocket, this covers it. So I am just going to go ahead and adhere this. And how I made the top of this is I used a die from my stash. So it's an intricate die, but it only cuts the top portion. So it cuts all of this intricate work here, but it cuts off the end. So it's an edger die, and there's lots of these out there. This one actually came with my Gemini machine. So I'm not sure if it's possible to buy this from Crafter's Companion, but there are many other dies out there like this. And you can also do this other ways. There are punches that you can punch a design like this. There's designs in Cricut that you could use. So for that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put my adhesive down on the back of this. And I am using art glitter glue, which dries clear. So I'm able to just really go in there and make sure I get in that design. And if it goes on into the holes, I don't really worry too much because I can pat it down carefully with a cloth. And like I said, it dries clear, so you don't really have to worry about that. I just want to make sure that it adheres nicely. So I'm going to just place this down, and I did make this 4 7/8 inches wide. So a little bit of that white paper shows. And I want to take it down just a little bit from the top. Not too much, but enough that I have a little bit of that white showing, because we're going to cut that off, which is also optional. I did cut mine on the other pocket, but you don't have to. If you prefer to keep it squared, you could just round off these corners. So then we're just going to flip it over and take the other piece. Now this one does need to be a full 4 7/8 by 8 7/8, so that it goes all the way to the bottom of the page. And I am going to add my glue. And again, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and go over a lot of this flourish up here, because I want to make sure that this lays flat on my paper, and I can wipe any excess glue away. So on this, I would like to make sure. So then I'm just going to lay that down, and I'm going to kind of hold it up and see. If you hold this to the light, you can kind of see through the paper to see where the one on the other side lines up, because I want them as close as possible. You could also mark it with a pencil if that works better for you. And I just need to slide this over a bit. I got it a little too far on this side, so I'm going to peel that back up. Go over just a little bit more on this side. There we go. And I've got that pretty close. So if you're not cutting the top off of your decorative top, then you don't really have to worry about it lining up perfectly. I am doing that, so I want to make sure that mine lines up. So then I'm just going to come in with my cutter bees, my sharp scissors, and I'm just going to cut around that and leave just a little bit of my white textured cardstock showing. I'm just going to fussy cut around that flourish that I have. It's all right. This is the back of our loaded pocket. Just make sure that's nice and burnished. And now this is how you create this piece. So this becomes the back side here and the front side of the first pocket. So then we're going to bring our piece back in that we did. And as you can see, we have our flaps here. And I'm going to use score tape for this. And I am just going to take my 3/8 inch score tape and run it down both of these 1/2 inch flaps. These are extremely simple to make, and you can make several of them at a time, and then fill them with lots of different inserts, or you can do them one at a time. Either way, just going to make sure that that tape is nice and burnished. Peel off my backing. And then I want this is going to go the other direction. So you want to lay this down on your, I'm going to use my score board as a guide here. I'm just going to go off to the side a little bit. And I am going to put this so that my bottom portion of this lines up almost to the score line of that pocket. And then I'm going to go over just a little, because as I said, I just want to make sure that I don't go over that score line. And that should line you up perfectly. Burnish all of that score tape down, and then we'll flip this over. And as you can see, we have our first pocket. Now I'm going to go in with this I believe is a 1.5 inch punch that I'm going to use to make my little notch. Yes, this is a 1.5 inch Fisker's punch. And you can do this prior to. I like to do it after I get my paper underneath there, just so I can kind of eyeball the middle. If you look at your paper where I have that flourish, I can kind of tell just about right where the middle is. And then I'm just going to punch that little notch out. Next, we're going to decorate this piece here. And this is a 4 7/8 inch piece of the decorative paper by 6 7/8. And we're also going to go in with the punch. And you don't have to put these notches if you choose not to. I just think it's a little easier to move my paper around if I do put a notch in it. Add my glue. Well, one of the wonderful things about this paper collection is that you can use either side. So if you get in there and you have cut your paper out and you like the pattern on the opposite side, by all means switch it up. I am just trying to copy this one exactly. That was my prototype. As I said in the beginning, I watched several different videos on different ways of making these loaded pockets and kind of combined them. And so I had a bunch of different prototypes along the way. So I'm just going to make sure that's very well burnished. And then I like to take a score tool that has a rounded edge and just go up underneath of that pocket all the way down in there, just to get that paper kind of adjusted to being open right here. So then what we have left is our bottom pocket here. And again, we're going to go in with score tape, or you can use an ATG gun, which I'm actually going to do on this pocket. Just going to run the adhesive down onto those flaps. I got a little bit too much there. And then you're just going to pull this up, line it up with your edges, make sure it goes up there straight, and then you have your second pocket. And this pocket will be a little bit tighter than this one, but that is okay. I'm going to go in and kind of burnish down all of that score tape. Now we're going to decorate this pocket. We're going to use the same paper I used on the prototype. And this piece, in order to fit on here, is going to measure 4 7/8 by 4 7/8. We're just going to add our glue. And position that on there so it lines up with the paper above it. Gives you about 1/8 of an inch of space at the white or whatever your base color is showing. And now we have a decorated pocket. So then the final thing that we do is our accordion pocket. And this was cut from the 4 1/4 by 6 inch piece. And I showed previously how to score this. So I'm just going to go in and this, like I said, I made that video actually when I was doing my prototype. So again, I'll just reiterate, this is 4 1/4 by 6, and it is scored at 1/2, 1 inch, 5 inches, and 5 1/2 inches, and then 1/2 inch across the bottom. So go ahead and fold in your bottom and then your sides to make your little accordion. And I'm going to use score tape on this because that gun is giving me troubles. So I am going to go in and put my score tape across the bottom first. And then up my sides. And then I'm going to burnish this down really, really well. So all those folds are burnished along with the score tape being laid better. And now you have this. And then we're going to take this Starlight Mint paper, which measures 3 7/8 by 3 5/8. And we're just going to place that over our pocket. And you can adhere this after you adhere the pocket, or you can do it prior like I'm doing. Adjust this a little bit. Okay. Okay, and then we're just going to bring our loaded pocket back in, peel off our score tape backing. And then you just want to place this down on that front pocket with about 1/2 of an inch all the way around. And you can eyeball this. I like to use, like I said, I just kind of eyeball it. I don't get it super perfect. And then just try to push those bottom flaps, the first accordion fold in there, down as good as you can. And then just go in with your score tool and burnish it down a little bit better. And that is going to give us this fun little accordion pocket on the front. I think I got enough glue down there. And there you have pocket number 3. So we have pocket number 1, pocket number 2, and pocket number 3. Now you could put a notch in this pocket as well if you chose to. I did not choose to do that. So after this portion of my video, I do have some tips and tricks on different types of inserts that you can make. I'm also going to decorate a different front pocket in a different way. But for now, I'm going to show you really quick how I made this kind of pleated lace pocket. I'm just going to cut a strip. I used the plaid here, and I probably will not use all this, but it was a scrap. And then I just took another die from my stash, again, an edging die, and put it on my paper on the edge. And I cut the very first lace portion out. And the reason for that is because this is going to tuck under. So we want to take this and we want to make sure that we get a good 1/2 inch score line at the beginning. And I'm actually going to use a different type of score tool. Then you're going to take it and you're going to score every 1/4 of an inch. So the first one would be at that 3/4. And if you're using the same type of die with this really intricate lace, you want to be really cautious with your scoring tool so that you don't rip that lace on the bottom. So your 1/2 inch folds are going to go in first, and then you're going to want to go along, and at the middle of each one of these lace pieces, we're just going to go in and almost as if you were making one of the spine bindings for a mini album. It's done very similar. Or making a rosette, again, very similar. So I'm just going to go along and do that on each one of these folds. And you don't have to fold it completely because we're going to lay it down. And then we're going to put a little strip of score tape down to hold the middle portion of it. So we're just going to go along and do this. And you can embellish your pockets in any way you like. It definitely does not have to be done this way. So then you end up with this folded up piece. And we want to fold in the first 1/2 inch tab. Add some adhesive to that. Not a whole lot. And we want to put that right at the edge of the paper on that pocket. All the way up to the white so that you are covering the top. And fold it back. I'm just going to burnish this down and wipe off any excess glue. And I'm going to pull this over and see. Yeah, see, I can tell that I'm quite a bit over where I want to be. So I'm actually going to cut off another inch. So that would make this, kind of doing this as I go, so I apologize. That's going to make this a 5 1/2 inch piece. So it's scored at 1/2 inch on the ends, and then of course the quarters all the way across. So I'm going to just fold this in as many areas as it needs to be folded. And then I'm just going to take a strip of glue. You can use score tape in this too. And I'm just going to go along and I'm going to push in after each one of those mountain folds so that I get that little pleat. So just push it along. And like I said, if I was using score tape, this would probably work better. So I'm actually going to do this. We're just going to take score tape. I am going to use the skinniest I have, which is 1/4 inch. And I am just going to run it along kind of in the middle. Peel that off. And then we're going to go in and I'm just going to try, hopefully you can see this, my big head's not going to be in the way. We want to push down after each one of those folds. So keep a fold and then push down. This is going to be a fold here. This is going to be a fold here. And then we have another fold here. It's kind of tricky, but and there's probably many other ways to do this. This is just the way that I got to work for me. I'll fold that last one, and I'm actually going to snip off just a little bit more. That's why I don't adhere the bottom at the very end first, because I want to make sure that I have enough, but not too much. So then I'm just going to put that one underneath. And adhere it. And there you have a pleated pocket, and you can go back in and push those down a little more if you like I am doing. And that gives us our fun little pleated pocket. So next I'm just going to show you how I did some of my inserts, and I certainly don't have a tutorial for every single insert, but obviously when it's done you will end up with something like these, with all these fun inserts. And this is the other pocket that we're going to be creating with this little embellishment here. So next I'll show you how I did some of these inserts. Okay everyone, so as promised, I am going to show you how to turn your loaded pockets into a greeting card like this. So if you're going to do this and you don't want that little flap, I will say at the beginning, to show, or you don't want to have to cover it with paper after, do this step before you put this backing on. And that way you can hide the flap underneath your decorative paper. But I'm just going to show you really quick. So I'm just going to cut a 5-inch. I apologize, a 5.5 inch. I always forget about that little 1/2 inch I need for my tab when I'm cutting. So we have our 5.5, and then we need this to be 7, and it's 8.5 by 11 paper. So I know I can just go in and cut off 1.5 inches, and I will have a 5 by 7 piece of paper. So then what you want to do with that 5 by 7 piece of paper is just bring in your scoreboard and place it on here at the 5.5 and score at 1/2 inch. You can also score at the 5 and flip it if you are worried that your paper is not exactly 5.5. A lot of people do it that way. Then you just fold down that fold line, score line, and burnish that out. And I'm going to put my scoreboard aside. And then you would just place this as I did on this one, using score tape, glue, whichever you like. Put that score line, the little flap, up against here and on here, and that will give you your greeting card look. And I am actually, now in my previous video, or previous portion of my video, I did state that I was not going to have a full tutorial on all of the little inserts and such that I put into these loaded pockets. However, I will show you a few. I did want to show you just a few ideas of things that you can do to add embellishment and how I decorate them. You can put a lot of different things in these loaded pockets. You can use them for gift card giving, airline tickets, whatever you're giving as a gift. It's just a really beautiful way to display those types of gifts. And I love making these. So I'm going to show you just a couple different things that you can put in these pockets. Now, my pockets, I have two different ones that I did with the Christmas. I have this one here where I showed you how to make this piece with the lace. And for this one, I actually received a fun little gift in the mail from Tamara herself, and it had this cozy Christmas tinsel pieces in it. I do believe she used these in creating a bag on a live recently. And I'm just going to pull these out. These are so pretty. And decide which color I think would be best on here. And I think I'm going to go, I think I'm going to use the gold. So I'm just going to pull some of this off, about a length enough to cover this pocket here. And I'm going to trim that off because I want this to dry while I'm showing you these different inserts. So I'm just going to run some hot glue beads right across the top of here, being sure not to get it above this because I don't want it to interfere with my pocket. And then I'm just going to put that down on that glue. How cute is that? So where we have the pleated die cut piece here, I'm replacing that with this. So this is just another idea that you can do, and you could put it all over if you like. So moving this aside so it can dry, some of the different things that I created as inserts for mine, I will show you. Things such as tags. Now, many of us have different dies and shaped dies and what are they called? Nesting dies in our crafty stash. And I am one of those people. I have many. Now, if you do not have a tag-shaped die, either one similar to these or one that, one of the Graphic 45 ones, you can also cut your own tags. There is a tag punch board. You could cut these in just squares, or you could simply use tags that are pre-made and cover them in the colored paper. For these tags in this size, I used a smaller die from my stash and some ribbon and buttons, and then some of the cute, adorable little cut-aparts from here. So this is one that I've already created, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So this is the Barn Red Artisan cardstock, and I cut that tag out, and I will tell you that this tag, just so you have an idea, is about 2 3/8 by 3 5/8 of length. So then what we're going to do is just going to take a tiny little drop of hot glue right here. Make sure it doesn't string too much. And you can use E6000, you could use score tape, you can use pretty much anything for this. And I'm just going to take my piece of ribbon and I'm going to put it down on there, being cautious not to burn myself. Let that sit for just a minute. And then I'm going to add another dot of the glue on the inside of that ribbon. Now you could also cut a hole, punch a hole in your tag, and pull the ribbon through the hole in the traditional way of doing this, or you can do it this way. And so now I have my cute little ribbon, and I want to adorn this with something. And this one I put a button, and I do have another button that's just like the other one. So I'm just going to put my hot glue kind of in a little bit of a circular pattern so that I don't get so much glue that it comes through the holes of the button. And I'm just going to place that down. And now we have this cute little tag with a button on it. So that is another idea that you can do. And then I just simply put one of the cute little cut-aparts from the cut-apart sheet on here. Just going to adhere some glue to the back of it. And just simply put it right up underneath that button. Line it up with the sides. And I'm going to smooth it out. And then you have this adorable little tags that you can just put in here as embellishments. You could write a little sentiment on the back. You could put one of those cute little, the mini camera photos on there. If you're giving this as a gift, super, super fun. So that's one embellishment idea. Another one is just a simple photo mount. So this is one of the cut aparts from the sheet with the woman with the tree, and I've cut this down so that it measures 3 3/4 by 5 5/8. Excuse me. Let me check that one more time. Yes, 5 5/8. And so then my barn red cardstock for this one is 4 by 5 7/8. And I'm just going to apply glue to the back of her. And if you wanted a little fancier look, you can round the corners of both the cut apart and this, or you can just round the corners of the mat like I'm actually did on the ones for the Christmas Dreams one. I probably won't do that with this. I kind of like the square look here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this one square. Just get all that glue pushed down. And now you have this adorable little mounted photo. And you could also use a sentiment stamp to stamp something on the backs of these. You can add a pocket to the back of this. There's many, many possibilities for things that can be done with these loaded pockets. So I just wanted to show you a few of the things that I like to put in mine. Here's a little bit larger tag, and I have cut out this adorable Christmas list Santa standing on the boxes, and it says, "Don't be naughty." I love this one, so I'm just going to go ahead. I've cut that down so it fits my tag. So whatever tag, die, or pre-made tag you're using, you just want to make sure that you measure it and then cut your paper to fit it where you want it to sit. So I have that little guy all mounted on the Barn Red Artisan cardstock. And for this one, I'm actually going to use a hole punch and punch a hole in it. Okay, so I'm just going to punch a hole right in the middle of this. I'm going to turn it this way just to make sure that I am seeing the middle. So now I have a fun little spot to put some colored twine. And I'm going to take a little bit of this baker's twine that is green and white. And then another little strip of the red and white. And I am going to put these together. Don't worry if they're not the same length. We're going to cut the end off anyways. And I'm going to string these through this tag. Like so, and then pull all of my strings through. And then I'm just going to trim this a little. I'm going to tie a knot. Okay, pull all those through, and you have your nice little knotted piece there. And then I'm just going to trim the ends so that they're fairly even. And let them fray a little. And there's another fun little insert. As you can see, inserts are very simple to make. And there's many, many, many ways to make them in many different styles and sizes. So for this one, I've also taken some of that red, Barn Red cardstock, Artisan cardstock, and it measures, the length of this is about 8 1/8. And then we have 4 3/4, and that was scored and folded to make this little card, which measures in the end 4 by 4 3/4. And I'm just going to go ahead and burnish that a little better. I did this portion off camera. And then I've just taken some green cardstock and made a mat for my little cutout image. I'm going to put that right in the middle of the paper, trying to keep it as even around the outside as I can. And yes, the outside side edges will be more than the top and bottom, which is fine. If you don't like that look, you can certainly cut it perfectly square. And then I'm just going to take my little Santa cutout that says Merry Christmas. Add my adhesive. And place that down on the green. So now I have this fun little card. I've also taken a piece of white cardstock and cut that so that it will fit on the inside to add a sentiment or a stamped sentiment, anything that you like, you can put on the inside. Using white paper makes it so if you want to write something, it makes it much easier. All right, get that all down. And now, as you can see how quick that was, we have a fold out insert. Another one I am going to be doing is this one, which is the same as that. However, I used white cardstock, and I'm just going to place this little girl here, and I'll probably put a strip of something across the top. So now I want to show you, now that you've seen a bunch of different ways to make inserts, you can also make larger tags to fit in the larger pocket. Now I'm going to embellish the front of this. Now I've taken this little guy, the little doggy in the stocking cut apart, and I've used some dies in my stash to cut one scalloped circle in green and the next size down in the barn red. And I am going to do similar to what I did on the cover of the Christmas Dreams one. This is going to sit offset over here. So we want to glue this down first, so we have a good base. And I don't want to get my glue on this side because it's going to hang over. So we don't want to get it all the way over, just to where it's going to sit. And I'm going to place that right there. Up just a little. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to take my red piece and I'm going to grab some foam squares. And I am going to put some foam squares right in the middle. As you can see, I just put 4 in the middle. Get all that backing off of there. And I'm going to put that right in the middle of my green circle. And then we're going to take our little doggy. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab a couple squares of adhesive. I'm going to use 3 on this one. And you can put more or less. It's up to you. It does not take the whole back being covered for it to sit on here. So because I like to save, I only put what is needed. So then we're going to take our little doggy and we're going to put him so he's also raised up on there. And as you can see, now you have this cute little embellishment on the outside. So then I'm just going to take all these fun little inserts, like I said, that we've made, and I'm going to stick them in here. So this can be a nice finished pocket. We have our little card here. Another little fun tag. We put this big one in the back. This one here, so it hangs out. And then, of course, last but not least, we have our fun little rosette wand. And that can go in either the top or the middle pocket. It does not make a difference. And so that is that filled up. Now this will probably be given as a gift to someone in my family, and I'll probably add more to it. But that is just some ways that I can show you on different types of inserts that you can make just using your scraps, simple cardstock, your cut aparts. Any of those things works wonders for making these. So thanks so much for joining me, and I hope that you guys make some fun loaded pockets and share them with us on the Scrapbookers group. Until next time, have a wonderful holiday.